Hey everyone, welcome back to the podcast.
Hey, great to be here.
So today we're talking about something that sounds a bit formal at first, maybe even a little intimidating, AI governance.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people hear that phrase and immediately imagine policies, regulations, committees, and a lot of paperwork.
Exactly, which, to be fair, is part of it.
It is.
But it's also much more than that, because once AI starts affecting real decisions, hiring, lending, healthcare, education, customer service, then governance becomes a very practical question.
Right. It stops being this abstract idea and becomes who is responsible? What could go wrong? How do we stop harm before it happens? And if something does go wrong, what do we do next?
So in today's episode, we want to unpack AI governance in a way that actually feels understandable and useful. We'll go through the big ideas, the common risks, some real-world examples, and also the tools organizations can use to govern AI more responsibly.
Basically, we want to answer this question. How do you move from we're using AI to we're using AI responsibly?
Perfect. Let's start there. Part 1. So what is AI governance? Okay, Daniel, simplest version first. What is AI governance?
I'd put it like this. AI governance is the way an organization makes sure AI is used responsibly, safely, and accountably.
That's a nice clean definition.
Yeah, it's really the system around the AI, not just the model itself. So not only the technology, but also the rules, the processes, the people involved, the review steps, the monitoring, the documentation, all of that.
So it's not just, does the model work?
Exactly. It's also, should we use it? Is it fair? Is it legal? Can we explain it? What happens if it fails? Who is accountable?
And I think that's the key shift. AI governance is what happens when you stop treating AI as just another tool and start recognizing that it can affect people in serious ways.
Yes, especially when the AI is influencing decisions that affect people's rights, opportunities, or access to services.
So why is this such a big deal now?
Because AI is no longer sitting quietly in the background. It's making recommendations, scoring people, generating content, screening candidates, flagging fraud, predicting behavior, and all of that has consequences.
And often those consequences are not neutral.
Exactly. Also, technology usually moves faster than regulation. By the time lawmakers respond, the tools have already been deployed.
So law tends to react after harm, while governance is supposed to anticipate harm before it happens.
Yes, that's a really important distinction.
And I think another reason this matters is that AI failures can scale very fast. If one person makes a bad decision, that's a problem. But if an AI system makes the same bad decision thousands of times, that becomes a much bigger problem.
Exactly. The speed and scale of AI change everything.
Part 3. Law, ethics, compliance, governance. What's the difference? This is where people often get confused. They hear law, ethics, compliance, and governance, and it all starts to sound like the same thing.
Yeah, but they're not the same.
Let's break it down.
Okay, law is the minimum standard. It tells you what you must do or must not do.
So things like data protection law, anti-discrimination law, sector-specific rules.
Right. Then compliance is about proving that you've actually followed those requirements.
So records, controls, evidence, audit trails, that kind of thing.
Exactly. Then ethics is broader. Ethics asks, even if something is legal, is it fair? Is it responsible? Is it the right thing to do?
And then governance is the practical system that makes all of that real inside an organization.
Yes, governance is how you actually organize responsibility, decision-making, review, escalation, monitoring, the stuff that makes ethics and compliance operational.
I really like this summary. Law sets the floor, ethics raises the bar, compliance proves adherence, and governance makes it all work in practice.
That's exactly it.
Part 4. What does responsible AI actually mean? Now let's get into the principles behind all this. When people talk about responsible AI or trustworthy AI, what do they usually mean?
They usually mean that AI should be lawful, fair, robust, secure, transparent, accountable, explainable, human-centered, and sometimes environmentally sustainable.
Which sounds great in theory, but the real question is, what do those words mean in practice?
Exactly. Let's take fairness. That means the system shouldn't systematically disadvantage particular groups.
And transparency means people should understand that AI is being used, what it's doing, and what its limits are.
Right. Accountability means someone has to be responsible. You can't just say, well, the model did it.
And explainability becomes especially important in high-stakes cases. If someone is denied a loan or rejected from a job, there has to be some meaningful explanation.
Yes, and human-centered means AI should support human judgment, not erase it where human judgment still matters.
Part 5. How do AI systems actually fail? Let's move into one of the most useful parts of this topic, failure modes, because governance is really about anticipating where things can go wrong.
Absolutely. One of the biggest ones is bias and discrimination.
Classic problem.
Yes, if an AI system learns from historical data that reflects social inequality, then it may repeat that inequality or even amplify it.
So, for example, a hiring system trained on a company's old hiring data might learn that the ideal candidate looks like the people who were hired before, which could reproduce gender or racial imbalance.
Exactly.
What's another big one?
Rights violations. That can include privacy violations, misuse of personal data, or even intellectual property issues.
Especially now with generative AI.
Definitely. Then there's misinformation and disinformation. AI can generate things that are simply wrong, or it can be used intentionally to deceive.
And then there's the black box problem.
Yes, lack of explainability. A system may output a result, but nobody can really explain how it got there in a meaningful way.
And another one I think is underestimated is over-reliance.
Totally. Sometimes the issue isn't that the model is perfect or imperfect, it's that humans stop questioning it. People assume the AI must be right.
Which is dangerous.
Very. And then, of course, there are security risks, operational failures, and also broader issues like job displacement and skill erosion.
Part 6. AI risks are broader than people think. I think one of the most important lessons in AI governance is that AI risk is not just technical risk.
Exactly. AI risk is multi-layered.
Let's name a few.
Sure. Reputational risk. If the AI causes a scandal, trust collapses.
Legal risk, lawsuits, liability, discrimination claims.
Regulatory risk, investigations, fines, stricter oversight.
Technical risk, drift, hallucinations, poor performance.
Operational risk, failures that disrupt real processes.
Security risk, attacks, leakage, manipulation.
Environmental risk, large energy and compute demands.
So when an organization says we're managing AI risk, it should really mean all of that, not just whether the model has a high accuracy score.
Exactly.
Okay, let's ground this in some real cases. Apple Card.
One well-known case is Apple Card, where women were reportedly offered much lower credit limits than men, even in similar financial situations.
That case is great for showing how one issue becomes multiple problems at once: fairness, public trust, legal exposure, and regulatory scrutiny.
Zillow then used AI to predict housing prices and buy homes, but the model overestimated values. That decision scaled badly, and they had to shut down that business line.
So that's a strong operational risk example.
Samsung and ChatGPT. Another one is Samsung, where employees uploaded sensitive code and internal content into ChatGPT. That raised confidentiality and IP concerns.
And it led to restrictions on generative AI use internally, which shows how one governance failure can reshape operations across an organization.
Then the Gemini image controversy showed how even an attempt to be inclusive can create reputational risk if the outputs are seen as historically inaccurate or distorted.
So governance isn't only about avoiding exclusion, it's also about avoiding overcorrection or badly designed interventions. Part 9. The trustworthy AI cycle.
Yes, this is a really useful framework to structure governance thinking.
Walk us through it.
Sure, it has 5 parts. 1. Consequences and oversight. What is this system for? What could go wrong? Who could be affected? What level of human oversight is needed?
2. Data quality and conformance. Is the data good? Is it representative? Is it lawful to use? Could it introduce bias?
3. Principles and metrics. How do you turn abstract values like fairness and accountability into things you can actually measure and check?
4. Testing and documentation. How do you test the system properly, and how do you document what it does, what it depends on, and where it may fail?
And 5, monitoring and review. What happens after deployment? Are you watching for drift, complaints, new risks, or unintended effects?
And the key point is that this is a cycle.
Yes, not a one-time checklist, a cycle.
Part 9, the 12 key questions. The course also gave a really practical set of questions, which I liked because they force you to think concretely.
Exactly. Questions like, do you have the right data and the right to use it? Have you tested for bias? Can the model explain its decisions? Is it accurate and consistent? Will people lose skills or roles? Have you considered environmental impact? Who steps in when something goes wrong? Is it protected against misuse? Does it comply with relevant laws? Do users know they are interacting with AI? Is there a complaints or appeals process? Is it monitored over time?
And what's nice is that those questions can be used in real governance reviews, not just in theory.
Part 10, why organizations still get this wrong. So if the frameworks exist, why do organizations still struggle?
Because of blind spots.
Such as?
They assume AI is objective. They assume AI is more capable than it really is. They assume existing governance is enough. They give AI too much authority. They neglect data governance. They underestimate legal and reputational risk, or they treat AI purely technical.
That last point keeps coming back. AI governance is not something the technical team can do alone.
Exactly. It has to be cross-functional.
Part 11, build or buy. Let's do one practical strategy question. Should organizations build AI in-house or buy it from outside vendors?
That depends. If you build in-house, you often have more control over the data, the design, the governance process, and how the system evolves.
But that also means more cost, more responsibility, and more internal capability required.
Exactly. If you buy an external solution, you may move faster and get access to specialist expertise.
But you may also lose transparency and flexibility.
Yes, and vendor dependence becomes a governance issue too.
So build versus buy isn't only a technical or budget decision, it's also a governance decision.
Absolutely.
Part 12, embedding AI into risk management. How should organizations handle AI risk within their broader governance system?
The best approach is usually not to build a completely separate AI risk universe. Instead, AI risks should be integrated into existing risk management frameworks.
So things like risk registers, instant reporting, compliance workflows, internal controls, and audit processes.
Exactly. But at the same time, those frameworks need to be updated because AI brings specific risks that older systems may not fully cover.
Such as bias, explainability, drift, generative AI misuse, vendor retraining, all of that.
Right.
Part 13, 3 lines of defense. Let's talk structure. The 3 lines of defense model is very common in governance. How does it apply to AI?
The first line is the teams building, buying, or using AI. They manage the day-to-day risks.
The second line is governance, compliance, risk, or a dedicated AI oversight function.
Yes, they review, challenge, and provide independent oversight.
And the third line is internal audit.
Exactly. They assess whether the whole governance framework is working.
So the point is to avoid one team doing everything without independent review.
Right, it creates checks and balances.
Part 14, guardrails and red teaming. Now let's get practical again. Guardrails and red teaming.
Guardrails are the practical controls that keep AI systems within safe and intended boundaries.
So things like documentation requirements, approval checkpoints, user disclosures, role-based permissions, human oversight, audit logs, escalation processes.
Exactly. Guardrails don't remove risk, but they make risk manageable.
And red teaming?
That's when you actively try to break the system before the real world does. You simulate harmful prompts, adversarial inputs, misuse, edge cases, failure modes.
So it's a deliberate stress test.
Yes, instead of assuming the AI will behave as expected, you actively challenge that assumption.
Part 15, a high-stakes example, loan approval AI. Let's imagine a bank wants to use AI for loan approvals. How should governance work there?
This is clearly a high-stakes use case because the outcome affects access to financial services. So I'd ask, what data is the system trained on? Does that data reflect past discrimination? Have we tested fairness across different groups? Can we explain the decision? Is there a human review process for rejections or borderline cases? Can applicants appeal? Are we monitoring outcomes over time?
And if the answer to several of those questions is not really, then the system should not be deployed just because it's efficient.
Exactly. Speed without safeguards is just risk in disguise.
Part 16, final takeaway. Okay, so what's the big takeaway from all of this?
For me, it's this. Good AI implementation is not about perfection. It's about preparation.
I love that line.
Because governance is not pretending risk doesn't exist. It's about recognizing that risk exists, making it visible, assigning responsibility, and building systems that can catch problems early and respond well.
And in the end, AI governance is really about trust.
Yes, trust that is earned through fairness, transparency, accountability, monitoring, and review.
Outro. That's it for today's episode. We covered a lot: what AI governance is, why it matters, the difference between law and ethics, common failure modes, real-world cases, the trustworthy AI cycle, risk management, 3 lines of defense, guardrails, red teaming, and a high-stakes example.
And hopefully the main point is clear. AI governance is not there to kill innovation. It's there to make innovation safer, more responsible, and more sustainable.
Thanks so much for listening.
See you next time.
See you next time.